In today's video, I want to show you how to do this coffee cup cozy using an offset bobble stitch pattern in knitting. So you're going to start by casting on 9 stitches. I'm using Be So Brave 100% American merino yarn that's worsted weight, and I'm using a size 8 or 5mm knitting needles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we're going to knit the first row. If you haven't made bobbles before, they're not as hard as they may look. They do add a lot of volume, so you'll be using more yarn than you normally would for that amount of surface. It's more of a 3-dimensional fabric than a 2-dimensional fabric, so you'll have to keep in mind about that if you're going to use this for a different type of a pattern. I'll tell you how much yarn you'll need in this free pattern, but just keep in mind that this texture is very heavy on the yarn. You're going to knit the first stitch of the next row, purl across to the last stitch. This is what we'll be doing on every wrong side row throughout, and knit the last stitch. Okay, we're going to knit the first 2 stitches on the next row. This is our first pattern row. Okay, we're going to work a bobble in the next stitch. What that means is we're going to knit and purl and knit into that stitch before sliding it off the needle. So now we have 3 stitches where we once had 1. You're going to turn your work and purl across just those 3 stitches. Then we're going to turn our work and knit across just those 3 stitches. We're going to turn our work and purl across just those 3 stitches. I'm going to turn our work and knit all 3 of those stitches together so that we've come back now to our original stitch and we have this gorgeous bobble popping to the front of the work. It's hard to see with this few stitches going on, but it's really raised up just like these. Okay, so the pattern calls for knitting the next stitch regular and then working a bobble in the very next stitch. So we're going to knit into the front, back, and front. Knit, purl, and knit all into this same stitch before we drop it off the left-hand needle. So we're going to knit, move the yarn to the front and purl, move the yarn back to the back and knit. So now we have 3 stitches on our right-hand needle. We can now slide the left-hand needle stitch off. 3 stitches from 1, turn our work, purl those 3 stitches, turn our work, knit those 3 stitches, turn our work, purl those 3 stitches, turn our work, and knit all 3 of those stitches together. So we now have another bobble stitch done. We're going to knit the next stitch. We're going to work another bobble in the next stitch. So it's knit and purl and knit all into the same stitch before dropping it off the left-hand needle. Turn our work, purl across those 3 stitches only, turn our work, knit those 3 stitches only, turn our work, purl those 3 stitches only, turn our work, and knit those 3 stitches together, and knit the last 2 stitches of the row. So you should have 3 bobbles on this row, and that would be just like this first row down here. We have 3 bobbles on that first row. So now our wrong side row, just like I said before, is the same throughout. It's knit the first stitch, purl across all the middle stitches, and knit the last stitch. And just want to point out that our stitch count remains intact at the end of that row. Hard to believe with all those stitches we created, but we created them, made volume from them, then reduced back to our original stitch count as we went along. Okay, wrong side row is complete. So now we want to do that same kind of a bobble pattern, but notice how we do 3 and then we do 2 in an offset pattern. So now we're going to count differently. It's always going to be bobble, stitch, bobble, but we started with knitting the first 2 and then doing a bobble. Now we're going to knit the first 3, bobble, knit 1, bobble, and knit the last 3. Knit 3, bobble, please make sure you download the free pattern on my website. It'll describe step by step how to do the bobbles and give you the line by line instructions for the entire pattern. And you can also order Be So Brave from my website too. Okay, 1 bobble is done. Knit the next stitch. See how it's offset in between the 2 bobbles from the previous row? I think that looks so pretty. We're going to bobble in the next stitch, knit and purl, and knit all into the same stitch. Before dropping it off the left hand needle, turn your work, purl across those 3 stitches, turn our work, knit those 3 stitches, turn our work, purl those 3 stitches, turn our work, knit those 3 stitches together, and knit the last 3. And there we have it. We've got our 3 bobble row, we have our 2 bobble row, and they offset so they don't sit on top of each other. They fill the spaces in between them, and that's all you're going to need to complete this entire pattern. So once you download the free pattern on my website, it'll explain how to do the whole length and how to do the I-cord for the buttonhole, attach the button, and you'll be all set.